Hi, I'm Fishing and welcome to an advanced tutorial. The Advanced Tutorials is a series of videos where I'll tackle more advanced QMD concepts which are not suited for the more basic tutorials. These tutorials assume you have watched the basic series, and as a result I won't go into much depth on building and designing setups, which should make for somewhat shorter videos. The topic for this video is beam multipliers, a setup that allows us to greatly increase the PU per tick of a particle beam. The beam multiplier's principle is the exploitation of a target chamber recipe, which outputs multiple copies of the input particle, hence multiplying the beam. To achieve this result, a beam multiplier setup generally consists of alternating accelerator and target chamber multiblocks. Making a BM increases the PU per tick of beams by a significant factor, allowing recipes to be performed faster. This is particularly useful in low cross-section recipes or in increasing an NS's coolant output rate. However, a BM requires extra design, extra materials, space, and effort to create and maintain, as well as affecting all downstream setups due to increased focus loss from the increased PU per tick. Therefore, a BM should generally not be retrofit into existing setups, and rather, you should first design a BM and then the rest of your setup. So how to design a BM? First, you must pick a suitable recipe, as that is what makes the multiplication work. I suggest the following three criteria for picking a recipe. 1. The recipe should output the same particle as the input particle. This greatly simplifies the setup, since you don't need to find a way to change the output particle back into the input particle in order to do more multiplication steps. 2. Cross-section should be decently high, at least 20%. Too low cross-section and your beam multiplier may even make you lose PU per tick. Of course, if the recipe has a large output to input ratio, you can be more lax, but always do the math to see if you actually get more particles out. 3. Make sure the target is cheap, renewable, and can be obtained quickly. Especially at high PU per tick, the target will be consumed rapidly, so make sure you can provide it at all times. Now, in case you can't find a suitable recipe based on the above criteria, you can always make the multiplier with a different particle, like protons, and then at the very end, switch from the particle to your desired particle. Okay, let's try to make an 80 kPu per tick alpha particle beam. There isn't really a suitable recipe for that, as we'll see. Most of the recipes producing alpha particles use other particles. Or they don't output more particles than particles in. As you can see, all of these have only one alpha particle being output per alpha particle put in. So this means we'll have to use a different particle. Let's go with protons, which are pretty easy to design a beam multiplier for. So let's see suitable recipes. A decent candidate is proton plus deuterium makes 2 protons, but it has a low cross-section. Deuterium is somewhat easy to get, but it does require a decent bit of effort, as we'll need to also make distillation towers and such. The recipes I like in particular are proton plus silicon makes 2 protons, and proton plus silicon makes 3 protons. So I'm going to stick with those two. I like these recipes because both of these recipes have a pretty high cross-section. The first one has 100% cross-section and the other has 20%. They both input and output protons, so it helps us greatly. And silicon is also pretty easy to get, especially if you have mods such as thermal expansion or industrial foregoing, which can produce sand pretty quickly, and then using a manufactory, we can make sand into silicon. But I'm going to go with the top recipe. Why is that? In order to save on multiplication steps, we will start our LINAC with a laser ion source. So our starting input PU per tick is 20,000. With the first recipe, we need 20 kPa per tick times 2, 40 kPa per tick times 2, again 80 kPa per tick, so 2 multiplication steps. And for the other recipe, we need 20 kPa per tick times 3, 60 kPa per tick times 3, again 180 kPa per tick. So not only are we considerably overshooting the design specification, we will also need more energy because the cross-section is not 100%, so we need detectors. And the recipe itself runs at higher energies, so we need even more energy from there. In short, we will be sticking with the top recipe. One tip I have to give you here is you want our output beam to have an energy of at least 5 megaelectron-volts, because this allows us to sandwich a target chamber between two synchrotrons. Synchrotron accelerates our beam to the target chamber energy, and then target chamber outputs the amplified particle, and the amplified particle beam will have enough energy to go into the synchrotron and then speed up again to go into a second target chamber. And so you can just go alternating synchrotron and target chamber and synchrotron until you eventually reach your desired PU per tick. And then of course we will simply take our 80 kPu per tick beam and do a suitable recipe. In this example, I will do this recipe here. Proton plus oxygen makes 1 alpha, some graphite dust, so it's technically infinite coal, and another proton. Energy is decently low, 19 to 25.5 megaelectron volt, and 25% cross-section. It's not high, it's not low, we can get it up to 100% using detectors, so we'll use this recipe. And now let's see the design I've built. Here we've got our typical 5 megaelectron volt LINAC, which then goes into the synchrotron. And then we've got this little sandwich. Synchrotron goes into target chamber, goes into another synchrotron. Same thing here. Then we've got this final synchrotron to get the 80 kPu per tick proton beam up to speed. And then here, the proton is ready to go. Through here I'm going to put oxygen, and through here we're going to get the graphite, and we will get out of this particle chamber beam port, we're going to get our 80 kPu per tick alpha particle beam. And so this is our overall beam multiplier setup. We have shown how it works. And now let's go to the outro. Okay, so let's do a little recap. In this video, we defined the beam multiplier. We talked about the benefits and the issues that arise from building one. Then we talked about how to design a beam multiplier and gave some tips on that. And finally, we built the setup with the goal of eventually getting an 80 kPu per tick alpha particle beam. I hope you found this video helpful, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.